Have you ever wondered what would have happened had Anakin Skywalker been raised by the Force, instead of being indoctrinated into the Jedi Order or manipulated by the Sith? Well, that's the exact story that we're going to be telling today, looking at how the fate of the young Force user and the galaxy would have changed. We start our story on Tatooine. The twin suns dipped low behind the dunes as a hot wind stirred the desert. Shmi Skywalker sat outside their modest slave quarters home in Mos Espa, watching her son fix a rusted evaporator. 9-year-old Anakin was small for his age, but moved with the precision of someone far older. His fingers were quick, guided by an invisible instinct. It's part of why Watto valued the boy so much as a slave. "A storm is coming," Shmi said quietly, looking to the orange skies and brushing her fingers across a worn cloth she had been using to wipe her hands clean. She had seen evenings like that plenty of times before and knew what was coming. Anakin stopped. He looked up at the sky, just like his mother. "I know," he replied, but there was a frown on his face. He noticed his mother looking at him curiously. "It's not just wind. It's like something is calling me. It's like a voice, but it's not speaking. It's just this thing I can feel inside of me." Shmi frowned slightly, but tried to play off her concern. "You and your dreams, Annie. Come on, come inside." But that night, Anakin dreamt of a glowing figure made of shifting light. It was undefined and confusing and strange, but it was pulling him toward the desert. A voice, not spoken but felt, reverberated through him. Anakin could sense that this figure was trying to give him a simple message: come. Anakin woke before dawn, sweat rolling his brow. He went outside, a strange feeling overtaking him, as if he was being pulled or guided. The horizon was dark, but the yearning in his chest was pretty undeniable. He slipped out before the suns rose, leaving a note for his mother. Sure, Anakin didn't want to leave his mother behind with no real explanation, but he felt as though he had to. Something was compelling him. He didn't believe in any kind of higher power or guiding energy, but there was something. He wore his old poncho and carried only a flask, a wrench, and a small hydro spanner, and following the pull in his chest, the boy walked out into the desert and across the sands. The farther Anakin walked, the clearer the sense became. It wasn't a destination that led him on. It was the strange and undefined presence, an awareness that guided his every step. He moved with a strange amount of confidence for such a young boy, scaling sandy cliffs and descending dunes with the skills of someone far beyond his years. He wandered deeper into the Yunlin wastes, far beyond the homes of moisture farmers. Hours passed, then days. Days passed, and then weeks. He rationed what little water he had and fashioned a still from discarded tech he found half buried in the sand. In the quiet moments, Anakin's mind drifted to his mother. Was she worried for him? Sad, scared, afraid. He felt a heavy weight in his chest when he thought about it, but then each night would fill his mind with vivid dreams. Starfields, distant worlds, and the echo of voices he didn't understand. On the 4th week, hunger clawed at his belly. He sat cross-legged on a flat rock, feeling the heat of the day ebb into the cool breath of night. At only 9 years old, Anakin should have been killed by the desert. But there he was, still alive, as if somehow fate itself was keeping him alive. Anakin opened himself to the strange presence that had brought him this far. Whether Anakin knew it or not, this presence was the living force, guiding him on and leading him towards a destiny that he didn't know he had. The 9-year-old didn't understand, but then he didn't try to. The Force did not speak, yet it showed him the flight of hawk bats above, the shifting of sand beneath a rodent's burrow, the slow pulse of moisture trapped in ancient Tatooine plants. Anakin ate what little he could find, drank when the time was right, and kept walking. Where? He did not know, but he kept on going. By the 5th night, a sandstorm howled across the dunes. Anakin found shelter in a small cave hidden beneath a collapsed ridge. The cave was dark and silent, but the presence surged within it. There in the silence, the Force appeared, not in any kind of recognizable form, but in sensations. Warmth on his skin, calm in his heart, visions behind closed eyes. He meditated without knowing how. He moved stones without touching them. He felt life even in the smallest insects crawling through the dust. When a gigantic crate dragon approached the cave, its growl shaking the rocks, Anakin stood at its entrance, arm extended. He had always been taught to stay away from the wildlife of Tatooine, and he had heard horror stories of these dragons, but in that moment, Anakin was at peace. "Go," he whispered at the dragon, not in fear, but in command. For such a young and small boy, Anakin commanded great power. The beast paused. It stared, golden eyes narrowing. Then, without a sound, it turned and disappeared into the dunes. The Force had begun its training. Over the following years, Anakin honed himself through trial and vision. Using scraps traded with Jawas, he built machines with his powers and his technical know-how. He fashioned weapons of crystal and rusted iron. He spoke to the desert and it answered. In time, the sandstorms would part for him and the air would still when he passed. He became one with the Force, and the Force was with him. Sometimes in his mind, Anakin would see flashes of planets, Coruscant, gleaming towers, 5 spires, shadows. He felt fear and ambition ripple through space like waves. He saw cloaked figures, temples, red blades. He knew the galaxy needed someone, to bring it back to balance. Would he be the one that the Force had selected? Was he the chosen one? In truth, Anakin did not know what that actually meant. But he knew he was not ready yet. And so he waited, listening, learning, growing. Whispers spread across the outer rim of a desert spirit, a boy who bent people with his will, who healed the wounded with a touch. Traders spoke of droids reactivated by a mere gesture. Raiders told stories of their blasters jamming inexplicably in his presence. Farmers swore the boy had brought rain. The mysterious young man had quickly become a kind of urban legend across Tatooine. More and more travelers sought him out. Some came with injuries, others with questions. If they were able to find him, Anakin helped where he could. He taught a moisture farmer how to purify his water with the placement of stones and copper wire. He helped a grieving widow let go of her pain. He told no one who he was. He lived in the in-between, like an unseen guardian. Anakin, now in his mid-teens, started to release his grip on who he was and become a kind of conduit for the Force itself. And because of that, the Jedi Council on Coruscant sat up and took notice. It took close to a decade for the news to filter from Tatooine and to their ears, but when they heard, they paid attention. If there was one so strong in the Force wandering through the desert, seemingly lost, then they had to check it out. Obi-Wan Kenobi arrived on Tatooine alone, dispatched by the Council to investigate. He moved through the markets of Mos Eisley, Mos Pelgo, and Mos Espa, asking questions, watching faces. The planet teemed with secrets, but even here, the tale of the Dune spirit was known. "You seek the ghost child," said a Gan junkyard owner. "Last time I heard, he lives in the dunes. But you ought to know a few things, Jedi. They say that lightning avoids him and the sand listens to him." That sounds like bad juju to me. Obi-Wan followed the rumors into the deep desert, where the moisture of Mos Espa turned to sand so hot it could have melted to glass and wrecked ships that had rusted into the dunes. He crossed scorched plains and searching far and wide for this mystery Force user. But with no one in sight, Kenobi worried he might have been wasting his time. But the Force felt dense here, as though saturated with memory and something more. After days of searching, there, atop a jagged cliff, Obi-Wan saw a figure meditating. 17 now, Anakin had grown lean, muscled, and weathered by years of harsh living. His eyes were gold-flecked, skin sun-darkened, wrapped in makeshift armor of scrap metal and leather. A white-bladed lightsaber hung at his belt, built from scavenged parts. Obi-Wan reached out in the Force as he approached, trying to get a feel for who this boy was and what his place was in the Force, but he sensed something he had never felt before, something pure, clean, and new. As he approached, Anakin opened his eyes and turned before Obi-Wan could speak. The air shifted around him like ripples on water. "Jedi? Or Sith?" Anakin asked inquisitively. Obi-Wan frowned slightly before replying. "I am Obi-Wan Kenobi, a Jedi. I've been sent here on behalf of the Jedi Council on Coruscant to find you. We've heard so much about you and wanted to know more." Anakin simply nodded, but didn't respond to what Kenobi had just said. Instead, he closed his eyes and softly spoke. "Your Jedi temple on Coruscant. It's broken," he said. Obi-Wan blinked. "What do you mean? You've seen it?" "In dreams, in fire, in silence. I've seen its 5 spires, the hustle and bustle of the city, and the cracks that have been forming within. It's not supposed to be like that, but I can fix it." The Jedi Knight ignited his blue saber instinctively as Anakin purposefully started marching towards Kenobi, but Anakin did not flinch. The wind died around him. The Force pressed down on Obi-Wan like gravity, and the two of them came within touching distance. But Anakin did not reach for his own weapon. "You came to find the Chosen One," Anakin said. "The Force already found me." Obi-Wan lowered his weapon and looked at the young man before him. "Then surely the Force would want you to help us. The Jedi wield light. We want the same things." Anakin closed his eyes and let the Force flow through him. After a long while, he reopened them and looked to Kenobi, firmly saying, "I wield neither the light nor the dark. I wield the Force. The Force needs me to keep the balance, and that's what I'll do." We leave now. Coruscant reeled at Anakin's arrival. He stepped into the Jedi Temple not with reverence, but calm awareness. He paused before each stone, each column, as though listening to their stories. Younglings stared as he passed. Masters watched in silence. There was something about Anakin. His aura was unlike anything anyone had sensed before. Just him being within the temple brought a light to it, the likes of which no living Jedi could ever remember, not even Yoda. The Jedi Council questioned him for hours. They wanted to know about his unique Force abilities and how he had managed to remain alive in such an inhospitable environment. Anakin answered as best as he could, yet he felt no connection to the Jedi before him. He had traveled to Coruscant with Kenobi to meet others that might have been like him, and while they were all undoubtedly strong, they were not on Anakin's level. "You were trained by no one," Mace Windu said, unconvinced. "How do you wield power without form or teaching?" "Not true," Anakin answered. "The Force trains those who listen." Yoda studied him carefully. "Much fear I sense, but deeper. Harmony, unclouded, his mind is..." "What do you know of the Sith?" Master Plo Koon questioned. Anakin shrugged. "No more than I know about the Jedi. To be honest, you all seem the same. Two sides of the same coin. You seem to be more alike than you all might think." There was a long silence in the council chamber after that particular statement. It would seem that Anakin's words had struck a chord. "The Sith have returned," said Master Ki-Adi-Mundi eventually. "One Sith slain one of our own around a decade ago. We theorize that there is a master out there somewhere, pulling strings and trying to tip the galaxy into darkness." "The galaxy needs darkness, as it does light," Anakin retorted calmly. "But I sense the balance is on a precipice. If the Sith grow further in power, the balance will be lost. I cannot allow that." "That we are in agreement about," Mace said, nodding slightly. Though wary, the Council permitted Anakin to stay in their temple. While there, he joined in with the Jedi activities, talking with Padawans and Masters alike, debating, meditating, and treating the Jedi like equals. But all the while, Anakin still walked his own path, learning from Jedi texts but never bound by them. Despite becoming friendly with the Jedi, Anakin was no Jedi. He spent long hours in the archives, learning of Jedi lost to time, ancient Force philosophies, and the balance that once existed before the Sith and Jedi wars. He sparred with knights using unfamiliar forms, sometimes using no saber at all, just the motion of air and light. He studied the wills of the living Force and the echoes of the cosmic Force. Anakin grew and developed even further. Some called him arrogant, others called him prophecy. He cared for neither. In time, the Council began to regard him as something different, a living conduit of the Force, born not just to bring balance, but to be it. But from the darkness, someone else was paying attention. Darth Sidious had sensed the massive disturbance in the Force, and he too was paying attention. Sidious was currently seducing Count Dooku to become his next apprentice, and preparing his plans to start a galactic conflict, the likes of which had never been seen before. His endgame, the annihilation of the Jedi Order and total domination of the Force. But this strange ripple in the Force made Sidious wary. He knew this powerful being was no Jedi, but he was also not aligned with the Sith. So while the Jedi had been cautiously curious, Sidious was anxiously worried. He had been laying his plans for years, and they would not be messed up now. Sidious intended to meet this powerful Force user. If he could be brought over to the dark side, Sidious would be unstoppable. But the two of them came face to face on a chance visit to the Jedi Temple. Sidious, as his Chancellor Palpatine alter ego, had attended the Jedi Temple as part of a media event. He was still plotting his next move when Sidious was blinded by the powerful Force energy of Anakin. Anakin, unfazed and uncaring about the politics of the galaxy, was leaving the temple to go and explore the surrounding city, but as he walked down the corridor, he passed Palpatine and the media scrum around him. Immediately, Anakin knew that darkness was here. This was the tipping point, the person who would make the Force fall out of balance. His brilliant white blade flashed to life and the media scrum fled, panicked, leaving only Palpatine, Darth Sidious. He smiled warmly. "I don't believe we've formally met, son," Palpatine said, approaching Anakin, unfazed by the lightsaber. "Jedi or Sith?" Anakin asked calmly. Palpatine chuckled. "Neither. I'm simply here for an event. It is of course expected of me, as Chancellor." Anakin continued looking at Palpatine before repeating his question. "Jedi or Sith?" There was a long pause. Palpatine was clearly weighing his options up. He could remain as Chancellor and try to play this off as a misunderstanding, or a crimson lightsaber flashed to life. He could deal with this potential catastrophic wrinkle to his plan. "Why do you challenge me?" Anakin asked inquisitively. "I will have unlimited power," Sidious spat back. "I will not be hindered by a pet of the Jedi." Anakin smiled. "I am no pet, nor am I a Jedi. I am the Force." Sidious cackled, having never heard such an unbelievable and stupid statement, before swiping his blade at Anakin quicker than a blink. The swipe would have easily killed any other opponent, yet it cleanly missed the young man. Sidious frowned, having never seen such speed and power, but that frown suddenly turned to a look of pain and horror as he realized that not only had his attack failed, but Anakin's wild blade had pierced his torso. "This is the will of the Force," Anakin said quietly, deactivating the lightsaber as Sidious stumbled and fell to his knees, collapsing on the floor of the empty Jedi corridor. As the life quickly ebbed from the Sith Lord, Anakin felt the Force regaining its firm balance, pulling away from the precipice of disaster. Anakin's work was complete. He had done what the Force had willed him to do. Everything was right once more. The Jedi would be shocked to find that their ultimate enemy had been under their very noses all of this time. The Republic would be shocked to find that their great Chancellor had been plotting to bring down the entire galaxy. The Sith would be devastated by the loss of one of the greatest masters in history. But none of that mattered to Anakin. He was dispassionate, unconnected, not uncaring, but above these petty problems. Anakin left the temple. The Force was in balance. If it ever fell out of balance again, then he would return. But until that time, Anakin would travel, learn, grow, and follow the will of the Force as it guided him through his life. He once more became a ghost, a legend. He was one with the Force, and the Force was with him.